Hey, honey, it's the new year, or it's New Year's Eve, and I thought we'd spend a quick second talking about why we celebrate New Year's when we do, and how, and what it means, and scientifically what it means across cultures, history, different civilizations. Are we ending up in the same place that we started a year ago, and all that good stuff? All right, I have some of it already written out, so we don't waste time. But this is not to scale, but this is the rotation of the Earth around the Sun. It's our Sun in the middle. If you notice, the Sun, about its North Pole, is spinning counterclockwise from its North Pole. And our Earth spins about that, also counterclockwise, which means that it is prograde. That's what you call prograde. If it went the other way, it would be called retrograde. If this is our Earth, so this is the Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere. Let me get out of here. Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere. First of all, the orbit that we take is not perfectly circular. It's actually elliptical. Elliptical means sort of like that, elliptical versus a circle. Because it's elliptical, there's a section of it that's actually closer to the sun. Like it's not the same distance from the sun at all times. When it's closest to the sun, that's called perihelion. Helio is means sun. Our star is called sun or sol. That's why we call our planetary system the solar system. Solar. Solus, Sol, Helio. Those are all words for the sun. But it's a star, but that's what we call it. So you can't call another solar system a solar system because that's their star is not called Sol. All right? So it's at its closest here. I think this is 147 million kilometers, I think, something like that. And that's on January 3rd-ish. Even though it's cold here in the northern hemisphere, where I spend most of my time, it is at the closest. This is called the Aphelion. That's the farthest away. I think it's 121 million kilometers away. Okay. If you notice, the Earth is kind of tilted, and that is a purposeful, that's how the Earth is. It's tilted 23.5 degrees about its axis. That's the whole reason why we have seasons. Otherwise, if it was straight up like that in relation to the sun, the same sides of it would be experiencing the same weather year round because it's just rotating like this. Imagine this light, which I have here, is the sun. It's getting a pretty even basque, right? But if I go like this, now my head is getting more, but not my neck area, right? But as I go around the sun, different sections you can kind of visualize that, right? Because of the tilt, that's the whole reason why we get seasons. What they noticed that, there's an equation we can do because the equation for circumference is 2 pi r. You can find r with this. I won't go into all that just yet, but what some great minds of our past realized was that it takes 365 days, 0.242 days to go around the sun. So this is important. This is called the perihelion, aphelion, winter solstice, somewhere here, December, I think 21st. I think that's the day. So winter solstice is when it is, if you're on the North Pole, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, that is the least amount of light you'll get that year. Because see, if you're on the Northern Hemisphere, say here, as you spin, you only get a little bit of light here from the sun. Do that. So if you're on the in the winter solstice means when the sun stands still. That's what that word means. Sol, standing still. That is the shortest day of the year for you. The shortest day of the sunlight for you. Least amount of sunlight you'll get. Just like that, in the opposite, you'll have the summer solstice. So summer solstice, and that's if you're in the northern hemisphere, that's the most amount of sun you'll have that year. See how it's almost constantly facing it? There's only a little bit of shadow. We'll talk about if you go to, I went to Iceland. Yeah, I forget what season now is northern hemisphere. So I went to Iceland around the summertime, and it was almost 22 to 23 hours of sun. I went to the Blue Lagoon, and it was like 3 a.m. and the sun was up. And I had to we went to bed with everything closed, like all the blinds closed. So it's really something trippy, and we'll go into all this later, but if you're in Antarctica or any of these kind of northern, southern areas, and if you're there in the opposite of that, where it's 23 hours sun, 24 hours, where it's to 24 hours darkness, suicide rates go up, depression, spousal abuse, all these crazy, alcoholism, drug abuse, because you're just not getting your sun, you're not getting your vitamin D. Furthermore, we can talk about vitamin D in African populations versus European, why Europeans are lighter skinned, then why if you go even more north to like Eskimo territory, why they get darker skinned again. You ever curious about that? Has to do with vitamin D from your sun, the melanin in your skin, and from your diet. You can talk about all this. It's actually really fun to learn this stuff scientifically. Why I say, I don't like calling them black because it's not black, but black people are black, then Europeans are lighter skinned, and are there blue-eyed, dark-skinned Europeans, or are there blonde-haired, dark-skinned people? There are. Then if that makes sense, that the more you're going away from something equatorial, you should be getting lighter skinned because there's less direct sunlight, okay? Then why when you go to the North Pole or to like an Inuit Eskimo area, do you have dark-skinned Eskimos? Seal meat. We'll talk about all this. It's really fun when you learn this stuff. This is why when somebody says something basic like black people, white people, Chinese people, this people, whatever, it's like you don't know what you're talking about. So respectfully, shut the fuck up. But this is why when we go into our episode on racism, we can talk about all this stuff. So it's really, fascinating to understand it from a scientific perspective. Okay, so equinox. This is the, equinox is here. Okay, so that, now you know about summer solstice, winter solstice is the darkest, the most darkness you'll have, the least amount of sunlight, the most amount of sunlight. We talked about the Aphelion, Perihelion. Helio means sun. Maybe that can be your word of the day if you want. Solstice, we know that one too. We know that it's on an axis, 23.5 is the whole reason. Uranus, I believe, is on a 90-degree axis, so it's completely perpendicular. Venus moves retrograde, not prograde, retrograde. So it moves, because the sun is moving counterclockwise above the North Pole. Venus, I believe, is moving clockwise, okay? So it's all really cool stuff. We know that it moves in an elliptical format. Let's talk about the equinox, autumnal equinox and vernal equinox. That happens around March 21st, 22nd. This happens September 21st, 22nd. That is when both sides of the Earth are getting the same amount of sun. That's what equinox means, equal. So in the fall, it's equal. See, if you look here, the sun is radiating onto this section as it spins. All sides get the sun equally. Okay? There's more we can talk about here regarding how the sun moves in the sky. You can see it where the equinox point is, where the solstice point is. I'm trying to keep this short, so I'm going to just kind of talk fast. 365.2422 days in a year. If you round this up, you get 0.25. Multiply that by 4, you get 1 day. That's why you have a leap year. Every February, they add one more day. It's a leap year. Otherwise, over time, the Earth would not be returning to the exact same spot every year. It would be a day off, and that adds up. So these are the adjustments that people in the past had to make, and we keep making now. Now we have something called an atomic clock, which is extraordinarily accurate. But in the past, there were calendars in Mayan cultures, Babylonian, Greek, Romans, Egyptians. We all try to figure out how to map out how long it takes to go around the sun. Now, here's the thing that isn't true. People say, did we start in the same place that we were a year ago? The answer is no. Because the sun is moving through the Milky Way, through the arms of the Milky Way as the Milky Way spins. It moves about 7.2 trillion miles, I think. I forget the exact distance. So as the sun is moving, the Earth is moving around it. So you're not in the same place. You're kind of corkscrewing. You're going to a new place. So it's not about that. Remind me, we got to talk about New Year's resolutions and why you should never make them. But let's talk. So in the past, the calendar year is based off of agriculture. The farmers need to plant and sow their crops based on the seasons, right? Otherwise, if the calendars are off, they don't know quite when to plant and when to reap what they sow. So the calendar is a collection of different cultures trying to figure out how to balance out exactly where we are in our orbit around the sun. From Babylonians, Hebrew, Chinese culture, Greek, Romans, Egyptians, etc. There were times when it was a 10-month calendar, times when it was a 12-month calendar without a leap year, certain times where the months had 29 days because I believe in the Roman Empire, an even number is considered bad luck. So because of the superstition, they would then remove a day, keep the other months 31. Certain months like the calendar used to begin in March, which is the Roman god Mars, which is the god of war. So that's when the Roman soldiers begin to march, or start their wars in March. April, I believe begins means like new openings or new beginnings. July and August is named after Julius Caesar and Augustus Caesar. Gotta take this call. Well, that was eventful. The phone call was that your grandmother's car died. There was a battery issue, which I noticed this morning. There's a battery issue over by maybe like 3 miles away from the house. I jumped her car, and then she tried to drive it back and only got halfway. It was in the middle of the street. I jumped it again there. Then I drove it back. It was crazy. There was no power steering. About half a mile from the house, the lights didn't work, so it was pretty dangerous. Don't do something like this. But then I drove it, and then I got enough momentum to bring it up the driveway, up the hill, and it's in the yard. But it needs a new battery. We'll talk about how a car works in another episode. It's really exciting, in my opinion. Where were we? What the months mean? Month means moon. It's based on the lunar calendar, roughly. It's which each phase of the moon altogether, the phases add up to about 29.5 days. I don't know if I mentioned. I forgot where we left off. Each month has a name. March is after Mars. April, I believe, means to open up. May is after the god Maya or something like that. July and August is named after Julius Caesar and Augustus. Then September, October, November, December is 7, 8, 9, 10. September. Got a text. Sept, Oct, Nov, Dec. 10, right? So that's what it used to be, the 10 year. It used to be like a 10-month calendar there. And they added the other 2 months. There's some theories that the Egyptians broke up the night sky, the constellations, on how you get 12 and 12 is that they broke up the night sky into decans, I believe it's called. So they would recognize certain stars coming up, and that represent the next 12th of the night. So that those 12 sections would come up overnight. I think some astrology is born off of that. Astrology is complete bullshit, but that's where some of that comes from, your star sign, things like that. So what else? Finally got adjusted. I forgot now where we left off, but a leap year, it is 365.25, so those 0.25 times 4 equals 1 day. That's why every 4 years you have a leap year, and that is an extra day added on to February. But maybe I'll just rush the ending because I don't quite know where we left off. But so my issue with it, first of all, for New Year's resolutions, let's talk about New Year's resolutions. Don't make a New Year's resolutions. New Year's resolutions are for weak people. They're for people who don't actually mean what they say. Because I'm not saying those people can't do it, but if you truly mean a New Year's resolution, if you truly, and I'll show you how to accomplish things. It's very important that you know how to win at things. If you are truly going to fucking do something, do it. Do it on March 9th. Do it on August 20th. If you really want to be a sadist, do it on the day that's the hardest to do it. Quit drinking on New Year's Eve, not New Year's Day. Do your workout thing on July 4th when everyone's eating a ton, or on Thanksgiving. Let me see proof that you're not only trying to accomplish your goals, you're setting the goalposts even farther than you think it needs to be. Because it's easy to break that resolution. That's why all the gyms load up January 1st onwards. The people who actually go to the gym know. Don't go in January, really. The first 2 weeks, everyone thinks that they're going to start working out, and they don't. They stop. By February, it comes back to the way that we know it to be normal. It's you should be able to start that workout, that thing. And I can prove it scientifically as well. I've helped a lot of people get fit or work out or whatever. And the clearest sign I know when someone's not going to make it, they will go from being lazy and not working out to going, you know what, I'm going to start doing 2-a-days. And they mention the word 2-a-days. 2-a-days means I'm working out twice a day. Let's think about this empirically. Let's think about this on paper. You're going from eating Cheetos all day and watching TV late, never sleeping, drinking a bunch of sugary drinks, high fructose corn syrup, eating bread, pasta, all this stuff and crap and soda and just sugar water and drive-thrus and McDonald's, and never moving, living a sedentary lifestyle. Fine. You want to make a change. You're going from that lifestyle to now working out twice a day. It makes no sense. Because what I look for is longevity. If you can do this for a long period of time, if you can do something, if you quit drinking for a week, that doesn't mean much. If you can quit for a year, that means a lot more. It's something that's sustainable. So let's figure out what's sustainable. That is what I would believe more, because otherwise you'll fade out just because your body can't take that shock. I will so put my money on somebody who goes, you know what? I want to start getting healthy. I think I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk. I know that person will most likely be successful, because what's going to happen is the next day he'll go for another 10-minute walk. Next day he goes, you know what? I can make it 20 minutes. Okay. Then the next day he'll be like, I can make it 20 minutes again. Okay. And maybe he'll do that for 2 or 3 weeks. You know what? Maybe I can do a light jog for a couple minutes and then walk the rest. Okay. That's even better. Now it's, February. He goes, oh, you know what? Maybe I don't need to eat breakfast. I can just do lunch and dinner. Okay. That's a nice move. Maybe I can start incorporating some weights. Okay. Maybe I should start researching more about supplements. And now it's, February, March, and what you've noticed is there's an incremental increase. And by, before you know it, March is going to be here. And he'll be like, whoa. He or she will be like, whoa, I went from not doing any of this stuff to slowly compiling what I like and what works for me and what I don't like, what I can sustain, what just doesn't work. And I noticed at certain points I kind of fell off the wagon, and then I came back. And those are all really good signs. Versus, I'm not a runner, let me go run a Boston Marathon. That doesn't make any sense. So that's why you don't keep New Year's resolutions. It's bullshit to wait for a mark on the calendar to let you decide what you're going to do in your life. Like, mark it for yourself. You are your own calendar. If this calendar proved anything, it's that people don't have it right. This is what I love about science. Science doesn't care about us. Science does not wait for us to do. Science does not care. Sagan had a much more poetic way to say it, but science does not care about us. We are there trying to understand and uncover and discover how the universe works. But because an electron works both as a wave and as a packet, and as like a particle, and we don't have the language for either one, it doesn't mean, I was here listening to this from an IIT, which is an India Institute of Technology thing in Madras. It's like the hardest school to get into in the world. It's not that we cannot marry quantum mechanics with general relativity. It's that our language does not know how to explain what that electron is doing. So it's a shortcoming of our language. But the electron's like, I'm going to be me. I have been me for 13.8 billion years. I'm waiting for you to catch up to figure out how I'm doing what I'm doing. And this goes much deeper, okay, with, when there was El Nino, they massacred so many kids. When there was a solar eclipse, it's usually some older man in a robe who wants to sacrifice a kid to go explain the heavens, to go explain weather patterns. That's what historically has been happening up until this date. So the universe doesn't care about us. That's why New Year's coming, you're not coming back to the same point. Oh, Rishi's calling me. It's New Year's. That's my boy Rishi. You'll see a podcast with him. It's the first one I ever did. He's awesome. I hope you meet him. He's a great guy. Him and his wife Ash, they're really special people to me. It's like 3 a.m. He's in the UK. I think it's like 3 a.m. there or something. On New Year's, he was calling me. Yeah, you are not returning to the same place. The sun is moving, so we're going through it. And furthermore, we have discrepancies in where we exactly are. And this is why I don't like, this is what the other thing I was going to say. I don't know why I'm being really frantic. Sorry. I hate New Year's. I hate the New Year's Eve celebration. I don't like it. I don't like any of the customs around it. I don't like the ball drop. I think it's so tacky in New York City. It's been happening forever, and it's not a cool tradition. You're watching a stupid ball drop. It's like so dumb. I don't like the drinking stuff that much, like doing that stuff, although I do make a great French 75. I had a great time, actually, one New Year's in White Plains, New York. That was a good memory. Oof, there's another confession I have about that. I'll tell you on another date. I think that stuff. And then the other issue is this. I fucking hate Auld Lang Syne, that stupid song. And over again, damn. It's like, shut up. It's such a dumb song. That song and Happy Birthday. I have a theory on why it's a difference between white and black people. White people saying happy birthday. It sounds like someone's dying. It sounds like a death knell, like to you. It sounds like I'm being led to my execution. But happy birthday, they're like, nah, I ain't doing that. Happy birthday, happy birthday. It's like so much better, right? It's just so much fun. More fun. It's like, sounds like a celebration. Anyway, Auld Lang Syne, I don't want to fucking hear that song. New Year's with the ball, I don't give a shit. Everyone getting, oh, I'm fucking wasted. I don't care. Somebody rear-ended our car several years ago when I was coming back from church, actually. It's actually when I was a kid, sorry. I forget how long ago that was. It's probably like 20 years ago now. But and it was like 3 a.m. and everyone's kind of scared. I was a kid. Maybe actually even more than that. But I just don't care for it. I fucking hate New Year's. It's so stupid. Here's my proposition for what should happen instead. Have our species, Homo sapiens, celebrate at the same time. Because right now, we're celebrating midnight for everybody around the world. And as the world turns, there's a different section that's hitting their relative midnight, which is not how a species celebrates the new year. Even along those time zones, there are 24 time zones, it's not straight down. Like if you go through Canada and through Mexico, Guadalajara to like Chicago, it's like a squiggly weird line. It's not like slices like you're slicing open a soccer ball. It's weird, and I don't like it because it makes no sense. Everyone's doing a time relative to them of their own midnight. But why don't we as a species, just like Julian did, just like the Gregorian calendar did, which then adjusted the calendar. Like everyone has been adjusting these calendars, and then they make it our own calendar. Louis C.K. has a joke about this, how like Jesus won because we count the dates from his date. You know, Jesus plus 1, Jesus plus 2. We can do that with this. As a species, we can say, okay, starting next year, go to the UTC or like, Greenwich Mean Time. That is midnight. Where they hit midnight, we all celebrate all around the world. So in some places for them, it'll be 4 a.m., 9 a.m., noon, 6 p.m., 11 p.m. the next day, whatever. But we're all celebrating at the same time. So certain people I know, they'll be like, it's, 4:30 a.m., I'll be in bed. Okay, whatever. But the next year, it'll be a new time zones. It'll be a new one. And every 24 years, it'll keep going back to Greenwich Mean Time being the new midnight. But everyone gets a chance to have their midnight be the year. And that makes it that much more rare, that much more special. And the people who are up at 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. or it's 9 a.m. And it's only the people in those kind of time zones that are just not up. It's like, I think it's called a triple witching hour, that's a stock thing. The witching hour, I think, is between 3 and 5, where they say like nothing good happens, whatever. Those are the only people that'll suffer, but even they might stay up because it's kind of cool to be like a part of something. And to think that no matter where you are in the world, from Cameroon to Abu Dhabi to London to Hong Kong to the Seychelles to India, China, North Korea, Sydney, the tiny islands of Micronesia, Melanesia, all that stuff. Greenland, the North Pole, South Pole, people on their, people on their small, boats around the world. We can celebrate as one because we know when the relative time is to the new midnight. And we're all, as a species, the species Homo sapien will go, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. We didn't celebrate it with just our families or just our races or just our religions or just our genders or our heights or our sexual orientation or our whoever's at this party or isn't. Even though we can't hear them, at the same time, every Homo sapien said, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, honey. I love you, and I love you.